This is the third video in my Do-It-Yourself Foundry series. In this video we're actually going to put the coffee can furnace body together. To make our coffee can Foundry furnace we of course need a steel coffee can or a 1-gallon steel paint can, could be substituted. We need a cinder form. Here I have a glass spaghetti holder. It's tall enough that it can be placed inside the coffee can to form the hollow cinder. The third thing we need is a little piece of pipe such that the nozzle of our burner can fit in here, so make sure that's large enough of a diameter to fit the largest burner that you're going to be use. The idea is that this goes through a little hole that you put in the side of your coffee can, and then it's pushed in such that it touches the cinder form. With these three things at the ready and our refractory materials at the ready, we can now begin to put this together. The first thing we've got to do is figure out how much bentonite clay, cat litter, do we need to mix up to do this. I'm actually going to use the coffee can furnace body and the cinder form to help me measure my bentonite. I've taped off the hole here temporarily with some green tape. Also, I've put the hole about 1.25 inches or so from the bottom because of course we need a solid layer of refractory at the bottom. So the first thing I'm going to do is take some of my screened bentonite clay and I'm going to pour it in here, shake it out level. I'm not up quite to the level of the hole there in the bottom, so I'll put in a little more here, level it out. Okay, I'm at the level of the hole inside. So now I'll drop in my cinder form, let it sit there. I'll get some more of the clay from my bucket and I'm just going to pour it in here until it fills up to the top. And we're about halfway there. Couple more scoops should do it. It's just about filled up. Let's get a better look at that. As you can see, I've pretty much filled it to the top with the bentonite clay, so now I know how much I need. Now I have a small pail at the ready to mix the refractory in, so I'll just remove my cinder form, and I'm going to dump the measured amount of bentonite clay into the mixing pail. There we go. Using this small plastic beaker, 200 milliliter size, I've measured out 400 milliliters of Foundry sand, which I'm going to add in on top of the bentonite clay cat litter. I'm now going to add talc baby powder to the mix. There's 200 milliliters according to this measure, and another 200. So I've added the same amount of talc as I've added sand. The next step is to begin thoroughly mixing the dry materials till I reach an even mixture. So I'll do this for a while, and then I'll pick up the video again when it's mixed. Here's a quick look at the dry mixture in the mixing bucket once the sand, talc, and bentonite have been thoroughly mixed together. There is one issue with cat litter, namely it's meant to be extremely absorbent. So before I can mix silicate solution or my pasty silicate-based furnace cement in here, I'm going to have to moisten the dry mix a little bit with plain water so that the bentonite is slightly moistened and doesn't want to simply absorb everything in the silicate solution and remain too stiff and dry to use. So I'm going to moisten this with a little water, and then we'll take a look in the pail and see what it looks like after I've added the water and mixed thoroughly such that there are no dry spots anywhere in the mix. As we get the material moistened, it does become clumpy and sticky as we stir thoroughly. Here I'm using a little drill mixer to help me stir evenly and quickly to make sure that there's no dry spots in the material. Also, I don't have quite enough water in here yet. It's just not seeming moist enough, although it is getting clumpy and more humid. So let's put a little more water in and keep stirring. The idea is I shouldn't see any dry powder anywhere. It should all be moistened but not soaking wet and running with water. This is beginning to look about right here. At this point we're ready to begin adding our silicates and mix them in. Since I have stove and furnace cement, I'm now going to add some of it to the mix. I will be adding 2 of those 200 milliliter cups of it to start. I'll put them in and begin stirring it in. Here you can see I've dropped the gray colored gooey silicate based cement in here, and it's time to stir it in. This could take a little while, so again I'm going to go at it with the drill stirrer, because this needs to be mixed in fully and evenly. I'll keep mixing this for a while until it's an even color, and then I will pick up the video again for the next step. The mix has now become a fairly uniform gray color. The last thing I have to add from all of the materials that I showed is the potassium silicate solution, which will help moisten it a little bit more. I'm going to add about 200 milliliters of the silicate solution. It's now in, and stir stir yet again until it's thoroughly mixed. Once it's thoroughly mixed, we'll be ready to put this refractory mixture into the coffee can. So I'll finish stirring this and pick up the video when we're ready to proceed. What we need to do now is take refractory material and put it into the bottom of the coffee can until we fill up to the bottom of the burner tube hole. This will, of course, create the floor of our furnace. So I'm going to put a few scoops of this in, and then I'll begin tamping it down. I'll get a bigger piece of wood block here for the tamping. Here we go. Little more in one spot, not too much, so I'll just pick some up with my fingers. Okay, I'm going to stop here and put this down on the floor and move the camera so that we can see that the furnace now has a floor of refractory in it that's level with the hole. There, stick my finger through, we're level to the hole. Now it's time to lower in our cinder form and make sure that it's reasonably cindered in there. At this point, you have the option of taking your burner tube and sticking it in such that it touches the cinder form, and you can pack around it, or you can leave the tube out, cover the hole, and just pack the thing and then cut the hole in later, because refractory isn't too hard to cut. I think I'm going to cut my hole afterwards. Since I've chosen to open my hole out after I've packed the furnace, I've put some duct tape over the hole, and I can now begin to take refractory material and just start slipping it down between the body of the furnace and the cinder form that we're using. How this is done is you put some in all the way around, and then take something that fits in nicely and tamp it down. This material compacts up nicely and becomes quite stiff with a little tamping down. I think I'll put in another layer of it, and then I'll get a better camera angle to show the progress as we slowly build the walls of our furnace. This is a bit of a messy process, and some will get spilled along the way. I think I'll have it almost half filled when I tamp this down. Well, a third to half filled anyway. So we'll get this tamped down nicely all the way around. Periodically, you should wiggle your sender form so that it maintains a little clearance, and maybe give it a spin too so it doesn't become bonded to the refractory and be very difficult to remove at the end. This one's loose. I can see I'll be able to pull it out. So let's put this on the floor for a moment and get a better look here. We can see we're almost half filled there, so I'll bring it back up and continue. Here I have it nearly packed up to the top. I'm just finishing off by packing it down with my fingers such that it's level with the top of the coffee can, and I only need a wee bit more here and there, and I'll have it. Needs a bit over here. Use a scraper knife to sort of smooth the top off here. You can see I just need a wee bit more here and there to level out completely and smooth off. Need just a bit more at that front edge, not too much. Okay, that's filled up quite nicely. So the next thing we have to do is pull the sender form. We'll have to wiggle it back and forth a bit against the refractory lining. And once it's been wiggled a bit, you'll be able to begin to rotate it and basically work it out of there. It takes some effort because the refractory has a good grip on it, but it will come out. slowly getting looser, although it's not easy. Fortunately, this spaghetti container has a bit of draft on it, and once it's started, there we go, we're out. Now I can put this on the floor and we'll take a look down into it. Here is our coffee can furnace with the refractory lining pressed in. At this point I'm going to use my burner entry tube and just gently turn it into the refractory until it comes through inside and I can see it in there. Okay, it's come through fairly cleanly. I'll show the inside again in a moment. I'm just making sure the refractory is still completely in place around where the tube comes in. It's probably easier to just drill it in using it, like I just did, rather than trying to pack the refractory around it evenly. You'll probably get a better result done like this. Okay, I can now pull it out, having formed the hole, and try and zoom in here. There we go. Hey, I can stick my finger through there. I have a nice clean hole. I'll be able, when this is dry, I'll refractory cement the burner tube in there in the correct position. This has to be left to air dry now, and when I pick up the video again I'll be putting it in an oven or skillet to drive the humidity out of it. Here's a look at it from a different angle. This cat litter based refractory handles very nicely. This has had a little time to air dry now. It's becoming fairly solid. It's a little drier to the touch, although very, very moist still. So I'm going to take my potassium silicate solution and an artist brush, and I'm going to paint with the silicate solution all of the exposed refractory. This will help give it a very hard surface when we get to the first firing, which probably will be in 2 days' time. It'll take that long to get this thing thoroughly dried out. There I've painted the exposed top of the refractory with the silicate solution, and now I'm just going to lightly but evenly brush the interior. This helps to get a hard surface to the refractory. Nearly done painting the interior sides with the silicate. Okay, that concludes painting the sides. Now I'll paint the bottom with silicate solution. Okay, with a layer of silicate solution painted onto it, this can now be left to air dry. I will probably put it in an oven or put it on an electric skillet to drive the moisture out, because before we can put a burner to it and test fire it, we have to have driven the water off. Since it's in a steel can, I can't really throw it in the microwave to dry it out. Here I finished packing my leftovers down into this plastic container. This will form a lid for the furnace. As a last step in forming the lid from refractory, I've taken a large pipe here and pressed it down through the center of my lid so that the lid will have a center hole, like that. Visible from the bottom too. Here finally are the results of this video. We have a coffee can Foundry furnace and a lid for it. We'll allow these to harden up, and then in the next video it'll be the final treatment and initial fire up.